Hello and welcome to Analog Insights. In today's episode, Jules and I review the Voigtländer Perkeo I, which is an all-manual 6x6 medium format folder camera from the 1950s. When folded, it is relatively compact and easy to pocket. Once unfolded, it reveals an excellent lens, mechanical shutter and focusing ring. And this makes this camera an ideal travel companion and also great for street photography because it creates high quality 6x6 negatives in a relatively compact form factor. And of course, due to its age, is also relatively inexpensive. When taking a closer look at the Voigtländer Perkeo, it's important to understand that it came in three different versions. The Voigtländer Perkeo I, which we have here, the II